Okay, I'll call the meeting to order at 15:05. First order of business is approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion? A second. Any adds?
Under 8A, new business, we add TransLink funding projects.
TransLink funding projects. Yep. Anything else? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? That carries. Moving on to public participation. We first need a resolution to relax the rules of the Council Procedures Bylaw to allow up to 5 minutes per presentation. May I have a motion in that regard? Thanks. And a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Thanks. Opposed? That carries. So now a resolution that the report 2017 municipal grant applications be received for information purposes. Is that a motion, Fred?
It was actually at
Yeah, I thought I just thought I'd better check.
Throw them up on.
And a second, Ron? It's one of the two of you.
Why don't we just count it? That's a
No,
given, okay.
that's got to be done right. Any discussion on the report? Pam, do you need to tell? I mean, we've seen it, we've read it.
Yeah, it's basically a copy of all of the municipal grant applications greater than $1,000, and then we've requested representatives from the groups to come and give a presentation, a brief presentation with the opportunity for council to ask questions if they have any.
Very good, thank you. So let's treat as part of the acceptance of the report the presentations. And so can I ask, Kate, I suppose you are doing the Lions Bay Events Committee?
That's me, yeah.
Thanks.
Is that a prop in the back corner there?
A prop, yeah. It's my sidekick. He's very excited because he gets to phone the whole time I'm here.
Yeah, he's not really concentrating on
No,
proceedings.
he's not really present.
Probably hacking the village website right now.
Welcome.
Hello, thank you council and staff. Thank you for inviting the events committee to present today and for your time reviewing and considering our application. My name is Kate Pratt and I'm the chair of the events committee. The events committee aims to create opportunities for members of our village to gather and enjoy the community of Lions Bay. The majority of our events support celebrations tied to the annual calendar, such as the Polar Bear Swim, Easter, Canada Day, and Halloween. These events are all now considered Lions Bay traditions and are a great cornerstone of village life. We also endeavor to create other moments like Lions Bay's Got Talent, games nights, and an adult dance. We hope that all members of the community attend at least one of our events during the year, and we know that many attend several, if not all. While we are all volunteers, we also strive to prepare a professional and high-quality event. Our group is made up of approximately 10 people. I estimate that the events committee contributed over 250 volunteer hours in 2016. We always welcome and encourage others in the community to volunteer at events as well, to share the workload, but also to help encourage others in the community to become involved and better know their neighbors. We rely heavily upon the unfailing support from the Village Works team, and we are immensely grateful for all their assistance in preparing sites for events. Last year, our operating budget was approximately $6,600 for 8 events during the year. The most significant line item is Canada Day, which represents about half of our budget. Every year, we prepare to feed and entertain around 500 people on July 1st. This year, our operating budget is $1,000 higher than 2016, and our grant application for $6,000 is a significant portion of this. We also expect income from a Canada Day grant and our sponsors. If we do end up with a surplus of funds, this will allow us for some flexibility in planning new events and possibly the freedom to change or freshen up older ones. At some events, we aim to recover a portion of our costs through ticket and alcohol sales. And if the event is not as well attended as expected when budgeting, then we can go over budget. Additionally, the planning for Canada Day has not yet started, but we have set our budget close to last year's. it may be that we look to change the event up a bit and do something different for the village's Canada 150 celebration. Our village grant from last year allowed the events committee to maintain a strong reputation of our events. We thank you and our sponsors for all the support you provide to us. We take pride in our work, which we see as a contribution to what makes Lions Bay a vibrant and connected community. And I would look forward to answering any questions.
Thanks, Kate. Council?
Yes.
Can you approximate the current, more or less, the events committee's cash in the bank right now?
We have about 6,000 in the bank.
So we're in that we're in snowfall and no event for a while. If your last year's sponsors didn't come forward, like a total of 0, you could go through.
We're still okay for a
Unscathed.
year. Yeah.
Thank you.
Fred?
No, I'm fine.
Kate, of the amount requested, how much of that is cash and how much in kind? I didn't see the breakdown unless it's there somewhere.
The 6,000 is the cash.
6,000
and then,
cash.
Page 12.
The in-kind is, so I have that in a later report. Where is it? The in-kind's about $1,200, and that's a combination of the room rental and public works time and rental of tables and chairs.
Yeah.
Show me where on this spreadsheet that is.
Oh, it's not on there. I used it to calculate
right.
it. It's on a later report that I'm doing. I have another report coming later in the meeting.
Oh, okay.
So it's
So the 6,000 is cash, and how much again? 1,500 in kind?
about 1,200.
1,200. So 7,200. Okay. Anything else? So I mean, what happens now is that this it's a complete nicety. This is essentially a committee of council, or the council, and we make a recommendation to ourselves
Okay.
to consider it
Okay.
for this evening.
February 21st, actually, because we have another presentation on the 21st.
We're going to do them all. Okay, so can I have how does this work motion-wise? So, do
Received?
you want to receive each of these, or just do them all together?
You actually received the whole report, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just receive this as part of the report.
Yeah.
So will there be no extra voting?
Which is terrible.
We love doing that kind of stuff. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then, if I can ask Lions Bay Arts Council,
Yeah, they're not here.
seeing none, we'll move on to Senior Social Circle. Louis, I believe that's you.
Yeah, I believe it is. Well, the first thing I'd like to say is I really like what Katie had to say. It's such a better report than what I've got. Anyways, the Senior Social Circle presentation that's in writing, I think, is reasonable. The objectives that we have, I'll read those out. To build upon the initiatives made possible begun in 2015 under a UBCM grant. To promote activities and events of interest to a broad spectrum of residents of all ages. To engage seniors and others in activities that promote social interaction and also cater to requests for a program or programs with a focus on health and fitness. To allow for aging in place. And to choose activities that are complementary to those organized by other community groups. And that's where I think I acknowledge what Katie had to say about the activities that they put on and how we can become complementary to those rather than the initiators. Activities are investments in community. So these are general principles, very similar to what is being said by the Events Committee and by the Arts Council, in fact. I think things have changed a bit over the years, and I would like to read out something. Well, maybe the next thing I should say is, if you want to look at the budget request, that's on page 3. It's a smaller request than last year. We've done quite well with revenue from Tai Chi. In fact, we are now up to about 26 or 28 people coming, which is very, very pleasing indeed. But we do appreciate very much the sweetening of the pot that we get from the municipal grant. That helps a great deal. Now, what is done on the information that we got in the request, in the budget, in the grant request, is there's a breakdown of a number of line items to show what was budgeted in each line item and how much we actually spent, so that there was a residue of funds left over, which we were at one time prepared to return to the village. The most significant change, I think, was that we estimated that we might have a revenue for Tai Chi of $2,400, and we got much more. And this, at the moment, the revenue that is coming in from Tai Chi is much above what we might have expected. There's money left over in each of the line items, which are on page 6, I guess it is. We budgeted again for a number of things. Tai Chi, we estimate an expense of $6,000 with a revenue of $3,600, so there's a budget request of $2,400 there. And then for outings and speakers and workshops, well, no workshops, hospitality, publicity, and miscellaneous, we have a sum and budget requests for each of those items, each of those line items. So our total grant request in cash is $4,100, which is a good bit less than last year. And the in-kind waiver request is something we're not sure how to estimate. We estimated something larger than what Pam came up with. We made an estimate that there would be a charge made for each individual event, whereas I think that the way it's being looked at is that the senior social circle as a package gets a certain amount, and that will include things like Tai Chi, like cards, that takes a small number of people, outings a little bit for that perhaps, various things that are included in an overall package, which means that your figure came to be a bit less than ours.
Yeah,
Quite a bit less.
it was more like a monthly charge. There's actually a monthly charge for so many hours during the month, which fits nicely with the seniors as opposed to one-off events. So that's why it was a bit lower.
Yes, I think I understand that. The next, that probably covers what we're thinking about for the senior social circle, but as for an outcome of the senior social circle is the fact that we morphed into a consideration of Alliance Bay Community Association. And I thought maybe if I read out a little bit of the history, this is into another 5 minutes, Fred.
We'll give you a double quota.
Double quote.
Actually,
yes.
not to disagree, I kind of see this as two different grant applications with two different purposes.
Well, I'm just sort of wondering the same thing.
And I think, to me, if I may, Mayor Burr, the request here, giving the in-kind to facilitate the approximately 26 or 28 people, that's a substantial part of the in-kind. So really, the substantial part of the ask of the budget is to cover the revenue shortfall for the Tai Chi, which I'm happy to do, considering well over 2/3 of the money's raised by the attendance. And the other stuff's relatively, I mean, if it all had 28 people going to a variety of things, I think it's fine. So for the second subject matter, I see that as a different fish myself.
I think you're probably right. But, I was struggling to separate these when I was reading this over. So, Lou, let's treat them one at a time.
History?
Well, you came and presented 2 meetings ago, so I think we're well versed in what.
I'm not so sure about that because I wrote something this morning.
Okay, well, I mean, if it's changed much, we obviously need to know that.
Well,
But
it has changed quite a bit. What I feel let me just say what I wrote as a bit of history. You see, the Lions Bay Senior Social Circle had its origins in 2014 when the council of the day needed funding to upgrade access to the public building, and that was the municipal hall and municipal offices, and particularly access for those residents with restricted mobility. There was an application for a grant from new BCM under an age-friendly program for a senior social circle grant. It was successful in the amount of $20,000, and that allowed us as the senior social circle, which became known as the 55 plus, to come up with a pilot scheme. And the portion of the funds dedicated to social programming was $12,000, I think it was that. The remainder 8,000 was allocated for walkways and ramps. I mention here my feeling that using the title 55 plus was unfortunate because it implied an underlying age criterion rather than inclusivity. Inclusiveness was very important in the original application. So, but anyway, there was this grant from UBCM which gave us flexibility to run a pilot project. And so we did quite a number of things. And some things had an appeal to a broad community audience and attracted a lot of people. And I mentioned a chocolatier event, games and pizza, adult Tai Chi, team trumpets. There's quite a bunch of things that we tried. Some were reasonably successful, quite successful. Others attracted very small numbers of people. But I think perhaps the idea was that if there was a large number of events that each attracted a small number of people, the sum total would be significant. Hopefully different people, but that we're not sure about. So now the program has continued without the benefit of the external UBCM money. And so we continued with our original idea of inclusiveness and cooperation with other groups. We had that in mind. Then we did get some money to produce something that was originally called a brochure. This was from the Vancouver Foundation. We were able to get that external money. And then as we began to think about things, we really moved forward to thinking that, well, this is what I say, it soon became obvious that the SSC is but a very small circle amongst many other circles that make up the mosaic of Village of Land Bay. The brochure idea blossomed in many small stages to include a proposal for the creation of a Land Bay Community Association, which would be inclusive of the village as a whole, and that association would be the owner of the project to produce a brochure, which became known as a resources directory. And the resources directory, or at least the association, has a number of people, groups that I call affiliates to begin with. Somehow that name doesn't go down too well, and so other people suggested, well, we should call them partners. And that name is not quite as good as it might be, and so we thought, well, it would be a Land Bay Community Association.
Okay, let's move on to the funding request, Louis, because this is about funding.
Yeah, now the funding for that, that we asked for is out of date in the sense that when we presented it in last November or December, we had not gone through all the details that emerged later. And one of the things that comes out later is that there could be substantial profit out of that from advertising. And if I understand what happened in 2011, which is a long time ago, the profit was over $4,000, maybe $4,600 was quoted by somebody who was involved. So that's very substantial. And what's good about that is that it is external funding. It is it's going to a different pot, whereas so many of our requests get money from the council, from the budget of the council, and that is all going to the same pot. And this would be going to a different pot. So what the big change would be that we had a request for $2,500 to $3,000 based on no profit, advertising revenue mainly that would be. There would be some request for fee waivers because we would use space in the library for doing things. But the main thing there is that we're still in a fluid situation with regard to the community association. But what I think is important is that there's a large number of people that we have been talking with that I regard as potential associates in their community groups.
Okay, so let's cut to the chase. So you're asking for somewhere between $2,500 and $3,000.
Not now.
Well, I'm only going by what's in front of us.
That's right.
So what is it?
If we are able to move ahead and create a new telephone directory and create a new resources directory that would display the mosaic of the village, then we might be looking at a profit from advertising of, say, $4,000.
Okay, so no request.
Then,
No, but you gotta print the item first.
The
well,
seed funding, yeah, somebody,
I mean, yeah,
but,
somebody
so
did-
that's a business proposition, which is nothing really to do with, well, maybe it's a municipal grant that gets returned.
well, that's one suggestion that was made, I think maybe in the write-up, that if you were able to provide a grant and we made more than enough money, it would all come back to the municipality.
Well, okay, so, you know, we're over the allocation now.
It's still a work in progress.
Yeah, so I think we have a sense of what's being requested here, but I don't think there's any hard request yet. We may have to get you back on that one because this is more a project than
Yes.
an association.
Exactly.
Pam, remind us, did we require all our grantees to have society status
No.
by this year? Not
No,
yet.
no, we've never asked them to do that.
No, we did last year because we specifically wanted them to be able to play for gaming grant.
I think people were encouraged, if it was feasible, to incorporate as societies. However, it's not a requirement. You can't, it's a difficult ask to have everybody be a society.
Yeah, that's true, but above a certain level, I think, Ron, this was your
I think
department.
we were
remind us.
thinking especially, the answer is yes, but I guess the staff's response is you can't force people to do it, so they haven't. Mayor, if I could go back to this one, I think if I can, I'm looking at page 34 of 114, and Louis, I'm synthesized
Which
34, which
is
is
the SSC one, the LBC?
this one.
Oh, okay.
Okay. If I can boil down your hard numbers, if I take the, let's call it the 5 diamond model for the booklet, the telephone thing, let's call it 67, and between the lower model for 5, let's call it 6 Gs just for round numbers. And I go through your source of funding. The $400 you've got in hand, the $300, which is the left pocket to right pocket, I mean, you're transferring the money from the grant we might approve, that you just talked about. So there's fundraising, I get that part too. The advertising revenue, I defer to the CAO on this one, whether we're up to joint public-private partnerships and joint stuff.
In municipally funded projects, yeah.
And and the example being, yes, I'm a yoga teacher, I'd like to offer discounted yoga prices versus the incumbent who's there.
That's not really the same thing at all. What we're proposing to do and what we do with municipal grants is we provide a municipal grant to an organization or a group of people to do with, to pursue the matters that they are pursuing, and you give them the money, and they are accountable for that money to do what they're supposed to do.
For a community benefit.
If, you know, like many societies and organizations still must rely upon external
Private,
sources
okay.
of revenue in order to exist at all. It's just that there's no way they can make all the bottom lines meet, so that's why they come to council for municipal grants. So there's nothing wrong with that.
So a private public is not an issue at all?
We're not joining hands with the advertisers and doing a joint P3 or something like that. We're just saying this is a worthwhile project if council agrees,
Okay.
gives them the money, and they're expected to go out and raise whatever other money they need to make it all happen.
And do we have a say on who advertises?
No,
No.
we don't get involved with that.
Okay.
People choose to buy advertising. I mean, I so happen to be the person who was instrumental in doing the PAC directory of about 4 or 5 years ago. So I know what...
2011.
Yeah, is that what it was? Yeah, that long ago. You know, that essentially that was vendor funded. They got paid once the thing sold. But okay, I think we've talked about this enough given time constraints. So anything on the first one, on the seniors, what's it called again, please? Not 55 plus? Social Circle.
It's the same as the original name, Senior Social Circle.
The $4,100 plus some in kind. Anything on that?
I think Pam has got.
It's just room rentals, it's just for the.
Yeah, no, council questions. Fred?
Well, if we're at the money part now, I can pass on that. I just had a curious question about the second item on It just seems like when I look at the
This
organizations.
is the SSC, is it?
Yeah,
No,
it seems like there's an overlap in objectives between your group and the Arts Council, in that the Arts Council is coordinate the work of programs and cultural groups in Lions Bay and maintain active sharing of information. And yours is to recognize, support, and facilitate where possible the efforts and activities of local societies, clubs, and other coincident or incidental social groups. Is there some sort of interaction between the two groups?
Well, you're quite right in that there's overlap in our objectives.
Oh,
You're
okay.
quite right in that regard. There's an overlap between us and the events committee as well as the Arts Council. And the Arts Council overlaps with the events committee. You know, they share ideas. Now, are you asking me if we actually,
No, there's no conflict of target groups here at all. It's a cooperative you're talking about between even.
yeah, I think our idea is to be cooperative, that's
Yeah.
right. And so, you know, you as a council will have to say there's enough money going towards a certain activity, and there's 3 groups that are involved in it, and then you give so much to one, so much to another, so much to another, or give it all to one. Yeah, I think you have kind of a way to solve that problem. But the one point I would make perhaps is that authenticity is going to be important when you go out to advertisers. Some degree of authenticity. The Senior Social Circle is a group of seniors, and it doesn't have the same authentic ring to it that a Lions Bay Community Association, which is an amalgamation of all the groups. As I see it, it would be an amalgamation of all of the groups that are in the village. The Phone Direct is one, Historical Society is another. It's very much a case of them wanting to be seen as partners, as affiliates, as associate members. There's the events committee, there's the Trailblazers, there's the PAC. You know, the school element is in here.
Okay, we're not here to debate the merits of the various societies. We're talking about funding. So, if there are any further funding questions, Ron?
Then just to recap, Louis, and semanticing apart, because I mean I go to volleyball, and other than maybe somebody advertising when it's held, I really don't see it as kind of a group that participates much in this kind of thing. So let's get right to the numbers. So if I, again, back to page 34, if your hard number on the low side is $5,200, you've got $400 in hand from the Vancouver Foundation.
This is page what, and is this the?
34,
SSC?
this is the one I just showed you,
Yeah, but this stuff.
okay?
Page 5 of your material?
Oh, thank you very much, Peter. So if I look at this, I think really the ultimate ask is that if I use your specific ask, municipal grant of $2,500, so you're asking for $2,500 of 52. That's the boiled down.
That's what it was in November, December. Yes, that was before we knew about the potential of revenue from another source, an external source. The external source being all the advertisers. And that's where.
Okay, so I don't think we really know what the ask is, and unfortunately we're out of time. Peter?
Well, I agree with you. You don't really know what it is, and we
Yeah.
don't know either.
Okay, well, it's going to be very hard to make a decision on that. Peter?
So I would suggest that the point be clarified as being one of a maximum ask of 2,500 or 3,000, whatever it's going to be, and then council can consider whether or not it wants to impose a give back clause if you end up in the black at the end of the project. And then the second point, with respect to Councillor Bain's question about overlapping objectives, the way I would see that is that lots of groups can have overlapping objectives, but the projects that are being requested to be funded here are distinct as between the groups. So that's, I think, how you would
Well, I mean,
give clarity
we
to
are
that.
stewards of the overall pot of money. We need to ensure that it's allocated in the most advantageous way possible. It's a limited amount of money that we're trying to give back something in resource to the taxpayers, to residents. So yeah, we will take that into account, how we divvy up the pie. In terms of cooperation between the societies, that's external to this discussion. So I think that probably gives us enough to go on, and I think Peter's suggestion is right. We'll come up with a cap with some conditions on what happens to the funds if you do in fact make money on
That
the
would be
directory.
an excellent approach. I
So
think that's
Louis,
a
if you've
lovely
got,
approach.
if you've got your pen handy then, if you could write these numbers down. So it's 400 for the foundation, 300 from your internal transfer. And the ask, as I'm seeing it on this page, is $2,500.
Yeah, that's about
So
right.
that's your source of funds so far.
So far,
So
yes.
that basically I see if you come up with a revenue source from somewhere else to mesh this, when you come forward on the next council meeting, I guess, you're gonna have one page with the 6 lines on it,
Yes,
and then we can opine, but pretty much it's gonna be 2,500 or less.
well,
You need to find your advertising,
we need to find out.
or commit to it.
So what I would like to be able to say is that there's an approval in principle with some subjects associated with it.
No, you need to come back next council meeting
Well,
to make sure that you're,
get, that we have our advertisers in tow.
well, if, as Peter has suggested, if you, you need to get going, because you need to have the book to get the advertisers and all the rest of this kind of stuff.
Yes,
So what I would, at that time, would propose that if 2,500 was the number, I'd do the thing, and if there was a clawback or something like that after the fact, that's fine, but at least you can go to print.
I see. Yes, the clawback idea is something that appeals to me as being an approach.
Okay,
Well, I don't
let's,
know whether, I don't know
let's
whether
move
we're
on.
talking $50 or 500 or 5,000,
Well,
so
this,
there you go.
we're not doing this for profit
Yeah.
motive, so we wouldn't
So,
insist on a share
But
of
that
profit.
gets you your document.
Yes,
But just
Okay.
to one question I do have, if you make a profit, who keeps it?
Well,
Well, where
claws
does it
back.
go?
Well, I think,
Well,
I
that
think we
was a
need to
question
discuss
that-
that in a different venue, that in a meeting where you're making decisions.
Yeah,
and-
well,
and
any
perhaps
group in
staff
Lions
will-
Bay can form any group that it wants to and incorporate if it so desires. But I mean, I would expect that the municipality would want its money back and no more. And what you do with any profit you make is up to you.
it's up to, not me,
No, but I mean the society.
the association.
It's a non-municipal body. Okay, so I think we've got enough to go on there. So that's with the 4 reports that we were expecting. The Sea to Sky Invasive Species Council will be coming next time.
And obviously the Arts Council, because they didn't show up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Somebody arrived.
So nobody's arrived to speak about the Arts Council, I take it? No. Okay, so there's a motion on the table, seconded. Can I have all in favour of receipt? And opposed, that carries. So we'll move on. Thank you, everybody, very much. Is it hot in here or is it hot in here?
It's not in you.
It's one. We could leave the door down, maybe?
Next up, RCMP Block Watch presentation. So why don't you guys just go ahead?
Okay.
10
I'll
minutes or
introduce
thereabout.
myself. I'm Wendy Shard, I'm the new community policing coordinator.
Welcome.
Started in September, had a bit of a rocky start because I ended up with a freak injury and I was off for 3 months, but I'm now standing on one foot. I wasn't at one point. So I'm back in January and just starting to kickstart all of the programs. And here I am.
Welcome.
And I met Ruth the other day and it's great.
And I think this idea of coming to council was started because there was some confusion around, questions around what Block Watch in Lions Bay is, what it isn't. And we're open to questions and suggestions, and I have like 10 minutes or less, or? Is that
10 minutes is the official time, yeah.
Okay, great. So I'll just introduce a little bit about the current program in Lions Bay, and then Wendy can talk more about the RCMP's structure around it. I've been the coordinator for this program for Lions Bay, I think for about 5 years, and I wanted to do it when I realized that there was a disconnect with a lot of residents over their relationship or understanding how the RCMP can help when it's needed in Lions Bay, and I felt that Block Watch is the program. It's intended to help support the RCMP and for people in the village to be the eyes and ears and participate in crime prevention. So it starts with being good neighbors, and there already had been a Block Watch program in Lions Bay for many, many years, and there have been different people leading it that sort of dwindled away and got confused with other programs. So since then, we still have about 31 block captains and co-captains. So So captains and co-captains are people that come forward to say, yes, they would be happy to be the captain for their particular area. And they then complete a form, an application form to become the captain or co-captain. Co-captain kind of backs up the captain if you're away. That had gone to the RCMP community policing coordinator for a police check or a criminal record check. And then my role is to help train the captains and co-captains on the process, which is to be in touch with their neighbors, introduce themselves to new people on the block, ask if their neighbors want to participate in crime prevention, meet at least once a year just to either do that as a community group or individually, and give people the tips and the resources to know where to call and when to call, should there be any suspicious behavior. The communications go typically once a month. I was receiving reports from Catherine Henniger, previously in this position, which was just a summary of all the call-outs by the RCMP, and I would distribute those to the captains and co-captains. It's intended that they then distribute to their people on their list. Not all do, and these are all volunteers, so it's not my job to police it, how they're doing that, but we hope for the best. And then to try and continually recruit new captains and co-captains, because there's a noticeable reduction in crime, and it helps support the RCMP. So the effectiveness is purely based on, you know, how much people get to know each other and participate in that. There's a lot of what it's not. So that's strictly what I do. I don't fan out any communications unless they're given to me by the RCMP. So I don't make any comments, or if I hear a rumor or something. And if there is concerns in the community, then I'll check with the RCMP before I found that out. And I think the idea too was that if the RCMP had some urgent matter in progress, then they could rely on the coordinator to get that to the captains and co-captains, and they in turn send that out to their block and their neighbors. We have done exceptions where there was a water shortage crisis, and we were asked if we would activate that email list to put people on notice, and so the captains and co-captains agreed to that. If people say to me, well, should I be sending out a notice about, you know, matters unrelated to crime prevention, I say that's up between you and your neighbors. You need to get their permission to use that list for that purpose, other than for this. So I have this map. Oh, and here's Diane Ford. She's a co-captain.
Welcome.
And I do keep track, like this, of the blocks, and those represent the blocks that have got captains, no captains. We do have several missing. I just haven't been able to fill or refill yet. So we're always in recruitment mode. And then once a year I've been coordinating those community safety forums as a way to provide that once a year update on Block Watch. And the turnout could be a lot better from residents, but it hasn't been too bad. Hope to do it again this year.
Good.
So my piece in this too is to kind of streamline the process as well. So in terms of the police record checks, we were going through a little bit of a change in terms of RCM security, but I have streamlined that for you, and I can bring them down here. So as community policing coordinator, my position is going to be more, I would like hopefully to come down once a month, connect with the community, and then bring the record checks down as well. They're called police record checks. It's an FA2. It's directly to the person that's the Block Watch captain. I can streamline that and bring applications down and make more of a presence. Now I'm up to speed. I will be giving stats once a month, which are very meaningful because it shows a certain amount of crime that's happening in a certain amount of area, saying auto theft or anything like that. I've also connected up Crime Stoppers, so we have a Facebook page, but I've just recently connected it to a Twitter page, so we'll be tweeting, retweeting, so that's a lot of the tips and stuff that come out, which are in the Block Watch package, so, and I'm just in the process right now in Squamish. We're having a spring block watch event in the park where there has been some vandalism, as well as I would like to coordinate that with Ruth as well and have that presence. It's a great sense of community as well, and it does make a difference in crime prevention, definitely.
The one thing I don't do, which I could do, is copy when I send out the communications once a month to the captains, co-captains. I could send a copy of that to you, to council or staff if you like, but it's typically been a separate process.
So my question would be whether it's any different, the report that you would get from the RCMP, whether it's any different than the report that we get once a month from the RCMP.
You know, that's a really good point, because that was what I was reviewing myself when we were talking about stats, because I was looking at what Catherine Henninger, who was in my position before, and I'm going to review that because I think it might be the exact same report, except it's done into a memo form for you.
Yeah, I didn't have the MVAs, the call-outs on highways, it was just...
Yeah, more like 3 erratic driving, 4 false 911 calls, that
Right.
type of stuff. I showed you one of them that go into the media that's more specific. Once that hits the media, I can share that, but you can also get that through the media.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll look into that as well. I was in the process, we were talking about it to see.
Okay. Good.
Okay, council, jump in. Okay, I'll jump in first. Signage is very old and tired looking. Is there a protocol? Is there supposed to be a sign at every street entrance? How does it work? In other words, how do you keep it?
That's the idea. Apparently the signs help to deter criminals. So a lot of the signs need to be replaced because they're very faded, and I've been encouraging block captains to let me know. A lot of them don't even notice. Like they're so used to seeing the sign, they don't notice. I did have 3 new signs from the RCMP, or 4, and we did put those up and we replaced one, so I need more. So that was going to be an ask.
Yeah, okay.
And if you see areas, I know the one down at Brunswick should be replaced. It's very faded.
Yeah, I mean, if they look tired, they may be less helpful than nothing at all, because it looks like we don't care. And so it actually says, don't worry, there's no block watch here, and it hasn't been for years.
I think Public Works provided the attachments to the pole.
And we have them for you if you need more.
Okay, I'll look into it.
So I guess what we might actually want, if we're not going to do this on the fly, but it would seem to me that a renewal of signs would be a good start. Does the RCMP supply those?
I think I go through the block, and again, I'm new, so I'm learning all of this process, but I'll talk to the block watch directly. I believe it goes through them, and I would order them.
And do you have a sense of how many calls, I mean, if there's a block watch aware person living on street X and they see something they don't like, they call the RCMP, they don't call the captain or Ruth, they call the RCMP, 911 or the non-emergency number. How many of those do you get per period?
That's what was on the reports.
But that doesn't all come from block. Oh, that comes
Yeah.
from Blockwatch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's different to the reports we get. We
That
just
may
get
be
the
different.
incident reports.
Okay.
And I know that the
yeah,
reports
yeah.
I get from my Blockwatch captain are pretty specific. You know, they say what happened,
Okay.
and don't fall into the same situation yourself if you can help it type of thing. So it's not quite the same stats that we get from Neil Cross used to be, and now would be Sergeant Percival. Obviously, we don't want to duplicate that, but I think yours are probably more useful. But I'd be interested to know, what is the engagement of the community in calling Squamish as a result of being Blockwatch aware? So I know we had a big incident down here at Kelvin Grove the other day. Somebody didn't like the cut of somebody's jib, called, and that resulted in a day-long car chase all over the lower mainland.
Yeah, I mean, it would depend on what, if a report was made up in Prime, so I can check that out, and when those reports come in, if they're tagged as being called in by a block watch, or are they just put in the system with the name, which then I can look into changing that so we could track it.
I'm not going
what you're.
to, if I see something I don't like, I'm not going to call. I saw the Blockwatch sign at the end of my road, and now I'm calling the RCMP because I didn't like this car parked outside for an hour. So it's really just an awareness thing, both in terms of the perpetrators seeing, hey, there's a fresh looking, these people are Blockwatch aware, and then people knowing when they should and shouldn't call.
Yeah. There's actually a whole little document
Protocol.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
how
And
to-
that's been just, for me to hear, oh, I don't bother calling the RCP because they won't bother coming, that's what I try to encourage to change. And it would be helpful if the website, the village website had, I think I sent you some suggestions about some updates so that it could, help.
Front and center, I would think. Okay, well, yeah, this could be a much longer discussion. Yeah, I would encourage you, Ruth, it seems like you do everything, to do the safety forum again this year. I certainly found that very useful. Because, we talk about wildfire risk and
Yeah.
police issues and everything.
So we should work on a date fairly soon, then, that would be good.
First whole week of May.
Pardon?
EP week is first whole week of May.
Okay, we have the forum, House and Community Forum on the 5th, so two overloaded.
And I would like to attend the safety forum as well. So.
Oh, you are required to, yeah.
Yes, well, I am attending the safety forum. I was just waiting for the
No,
date.
sorry, that could work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that could work.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you.
That's good stuff. Good to know. Anybody else on the list there, Fred? No? I'll one final ask for anybody to participate. Seeing none, we'll move on to minutes of the previous meeting, page 49. You're welcome to stay. This is where it gets exciting.
Oh, yeah, can't get enough of old minutes.
We notice that you're very quick and efficient and move through things very quickly. That's great.
Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the minutes? Thanks, Fred. And a second, Ron. Any changes? I had absolutely none. Thanks. So, all in favour? Approval? Second? What's the word I'm looking for? Opposed? That carries. And
Sorry, before we go on, did we actually, I know we
Oh, we
moved
did.
and seconded, but I don't think we carried the receipt for information purposes of the grant applications.
yeah, we did. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
We didn't do a motion to receive the Blockwatch presentation, though.
Right.
We should do that. Can I have a motion in that regard, please? And a second, thanks. All in
Thank you.
favour? Opposed? That carries.
Just with the order in the minutes.
Okay, business arising from the minutes. I believe there will be none, so we'll go on to unfinished business, municipal grants, page 5.3. Anything we haven't seen before?
This is, the presentations, like I say, were all the grants over $1,000, so that council had an opportunity to ask questions. This is a summary of all the municipal grant applications. Currently, the idea is we'll have more presentations on the 21st, and then at that council meeting, council can agree to what they want to see included in the budget. Currently, I have the full amount in the budget, basically as a placeholder.
Yeah, and that number is 22,480 cash.
22,480,
Yeah.
yes, the cash.
And the last year was 26,733. So who asked for much less? Arts Council
And
One's
the
at the
library
bottom.
and the library.
and the
also.
play school both didn't ask for grants this year.
Was that an omission on behalf of the play school, or
No, it really, I think, was more of a one-time thing last year, well, for the last 2 years.
no? I think that's how they built it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then the senior circle was down, and Arts Council was down.
Okay, so do you want some discussion around this now, or do it all in one fell swoop next time?
I think it was more just an awareness to let, we were sort of, did it in this order where you got the detail, and now you're getting the overview. This is what the grants requests are this year, this is how they compare to prior years.
Yeah,
We'll
well,
have
I'm
a
now
couple more
confused at a higher level, that's
presentations.
all, in
And,
terms of presentations.
We'll have
Okay.
2 more presentations next week. I'll contact the Arts Council, I'm not sure why they weren't here today, to see if they want to come on the 21st.
Now, just because we've seen the invasive species presentation in the package, just remind me, that is a... How much are they asking for?
They're asking for 1,500.
Yeah, 1,500. And that's sort of a community our size's contribution to the Lower Mainland Invasive Species Society thing. And we do that every year.
No.
We didn't last time. Yeah, okay.
I think there is some history to it, though.
Here.
There is.
Yeah.
There is a
yeah.
history,
Yeah.
but it's
And I think
significantly more. Yeah.
And I think that will all be explained. The person who'll be doing the presentation wasn't able to make it today because she's actually doing a presentation somewhere else.
Okay, fair
So
enough.
it'll be an opportunity to ask lots of questions, and Nye will be here as well. And
You would support a slightly higher touch from the invasive species group, would you not?
Absolutely. We have knotweed, hogweed, that's starting to take a very good hold in the municipality. And we're not equipped in public works. We don't have operators that have pesticide licenses or, yeah.
It's
to do
against
this.
one of our bylaws. We're not allowed any pesticides or herbicides.
Yeah, we'll need to talk about that
Yeah.
as well.
Okay, so you're on top of that. And in terms of budget ask?
In terms of budget ask, I'm not prepared to seek further funding this year. I'd like to get a handle. I think the invasive council and I need to work together to develop a more cohesive program for the entire village.
So you're talking about summer 2018. Is that not too late?
Well, the 1500 will provide some support for us this year, and Public Works has,
As in boots on the ground.
as in boots on the ground.
Right.
They did some work at Brunswick Pit last year, and Public Works has approximately a 2-week window of invasive species control that we do internally, but it's specific to hogweed. So there is money set aside for that, but it's nowhere near enough to keep it under control.
Okay, got it. Thanks. So this is a staff recommendation that this committee review the attached summary of 2017 municipal grant applications, bring forward the recommendations for approval to the February 21st regular council meeting. That is next
Yes.
2 Tuesdays
2
hence,
Tuesdays from now.
regular meeting. So can we have a motion in that respect, please, and a second? Any further discussion? All in favour, opposed, that carries?
Mayor,
Was that discussion? Sorry, beg your
yes,
pardon.
it's
Beg your
okay,
pardon.
it's brief discussion. Along the lines of my questioning to Dr. Peterson and Peter's comments, I gave him my handwritten
I saw that.
columnar assessment of where he might want to go.
Yeah.
So he can articulate it in a short period.
Shorter period, yeah. Yeah, we need to talk about that one. Well, first we need to understand what the
Well,
ask is.
ultimately, he has to make an ask.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, fine. Good. So let's just vote on that one. All in favour? Opposed? That carries. So we're now moving on to 6B, the supplemental budget request, starting on page 57. Pam.
yes, so essentially this is a continuation of the supplementary requests we saw at the last CSC meeting. I've summarized them, made any changes that we discussed at the last meeting, and there's additional information that was prepared by the Public Works Manager. And what I had hoped is we would go through them, not necessarily line by line, but council's opportunity to ask questions again, see if there's additional information you want for the February 21st meeting. If there's anything here that we could cut now, but if not, at the February 21st meeting, that's where I envisioned us going through and then kind of starting
But
to
that would be the
discuss.
final cut, pretty much.
There's still time in March as well. I scheduled for another meeting in March to sort of do the final cut.
Okay, well then let's just hit the high points on this one.
Okay.
So the few additional requests that I've seen, for example, forklift, just for example, is that now in this general government list here? Or would that be an additional to what we see for this 306-247?
The forklift I did add to this
Okay.
for discussion, and
And
I've
did
also
you
added
add
the
my
buy-
request for a new lock for the front door?
That we're
Push
yeah.
bar, fire bar, whatever.
we don't have a number yet, but it will be added to here. But we're actually getting a quote now. It's a
Okay.
little more.
I mean, it's an ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the panic bar that's there right now is old style with the 2 latches
Yeah,
in the top.
yeah.
They don't make those anymore. So we have a custom door person coming out to take a look at that and give us an idea of whether it's worth it to replace the door or to custom fabricate a latch, a panic bar, so it doesn't loosen off each time.
Good, so you're on it.
Yeah.
And if we could do something slightly better than Battleship Grey, steel might be nice. Fine, okay, so what's council's pleasure on this one? You want to whip through some of these blue and white ones? The nice specials? Or have we talked about all of these?
They're actually Pam specials from West Van.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just tweaked.
Okay.
Actually,
Nothing's changed here. We've seen all of
No.
these before. The numbers are there.
We
right?
have, we've just got added
Total's the total.
information.
Yeah.
Peter,
And-
does this list got staff's thumbprint on this one? Like if the ferry landed on the table and said I've got $306,000, is that? So, I mean,
I'm not sure.
I mean, the ask is, I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here, I mean,
Mhm.
and everybody asks for a whole bunch of stuff. Is this the must-have list in your view?
No, I think that I'm thinking I'm hearing some of this is discretionary.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not must-have, it was just
Yeah.
getting a consolidated list, a little more refined than last
Okay.
year. We've done some pre-screening, and the idea is now that we've got it, we've provided additional information for council, and it's meant
So
for
would it
discussion.
not be
And,
easier for us to say, what would you like to take off on your wish list?
Well, some of
you-
it's council's wish list, so the idea was to discuss it, make sure we understood it. Some of them are fairly large ticket items.
Just remind us how much we had to play in surplus in a 5% budget or 6% budget.
300 grand?
It's
326?
about 320,000 at this point. And that, when I come to the 21st meeting, the reason I thought we could do some fine tuning then, I'll have a fourth quarter review then as well, and we'll have a harder number. Because we also have to discuss any contributions to reserves as well.
Yeah.
So this was more of a fine tuning. If there's things on here people have had second thoughts about that they don't want to ask for, if there's something they need more information, because we are bringing some reports to the February 21st meeting on records management, on asset management. And as you can see, I've added money for the by-election.
So right now, the number that we're looking at, this is the summary on page 58, is that right?
Yes.
So the total number is 357 plus 58.
Well, the 58 has already been funded
That's
through
right.
the water budget.
So it's
We've-
357.
Yes.
And sorry, one more time, the surplus, current cash surplus?
It's just over $300,000, but we'll have that number will be more locked down for
Yeah,
the February
yeah.
21st meeting.
Okay, so we're in the ballpark, Ron. I mean, you
Well,
know.
that's where I'm at with this one
Yeah.
too. I mean, you know what, I mean, I can arm wrestle with Nye here. I mean, do you need a backhoe? Do you need a, forklift? I mean,
Sure, but he
Okay.
says we do. So
he says we do,
now,
fine.
now we have to decide. So,
Okay.
I
Well,
mean,
we're in the
yeah.
bar park with no contributions to reserves.
yeah,
So,
Yeah.
Reserves,
That's
sure,
so
sure,
nasty
sure.
little
We're past
thing.
that one. It's okay. I think
So-
we understand the
So
numbers.
this was really just a
Reserves are-
consolidated list, but like I said,
I
I
mean-
think we're ahead of where we were last year in that we've done a lot of kind of pre-screening, so to speak. So this is a more
it's
solid list.
It's much easier.
More concrete, but that's still not to say that, things can be deferred to 2018.
So, Mayor, I'm happy to be the bad guy this time, and I'll run down the list. You,
Fine. Well, let's not go through everything.
No, I just got a
let's
few
touch
things.
on code.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
first things first, which is page 59, I'm not gonna fight with the fire department on their asks, I'm just gonna say fine.
I would say
Not-
so.
I'm
Let's
not-
do this one by one. So, Fred, what do you say on that? In
I
terms of the
think-
fire department ask, page 59.
Quite frankly, I think they're low, so I'm happy with this.
Does everybody have? Do you all know what we're talking about here? You have a package?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay.
Okay. So and is the chief coming forward one of these times, by the way?
I can ask him. I mean, he felt if you
Well,
had
you're
any
gonna channel him.
specific questions. I mean, I've met with him in detail over this.
Personally, I'd like the chief, and my council members can concur, I wouldn't mind a chat with the chief on a potpourri of things,
But on the budget ask or
Budget
something
related?
else?
other stuff.
Oh, okay, that's a separate topic.
Okay,
So,
done.
I mean, if you'd like him in here, just let's.
Well,
get
whenever
into
at a time of his convenience. And
Okay,
the
fine.
budget's just kind of a reason that he's, okay, back to page 60. If I can go quickly through the thing. For me, the 25.7, that's already there. The 23.7's already there. So I guess my look around staff, 30 Gs for the generator. We're going to wait until the 21st for a reason why.
The 30G is a ballpark
Yeah.
for what it cost for a gen set in West Bend that I know of. It's not for an office building with a server and the
Oh.
load of the hall, so I'd like to get an estimate for that.
So it'll be the dollar value as well as the explanation will be coming at the February
Yeah,
21st
that may
meeting.
change.
And the business case as well,
Yes.
because we've lived without one for.
Okay, so the quick skinny, so I can
Good.
set myself up for it. So we've
The
lived
blue
without
sheet.
it so far.
The blue sheet will be submitted.
That's
Okay,
this is
fine.
what I'm calling a business case. Budget.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so I'll hold my breath on that one. The backhoe, I think we beat that one to death last time.
Just remind me though. 21,600 in the first year, 43,200 annually for 5 years.
And then another 21,600, because we would assume if it was approved, it would be halfway through the year before we would get it.
Yeah.
And this is a lease to own, unlike the lease to the vehicles, which is a vehicle lease,
Oh,
and
it's
then
just a
we
deferred
give it up.
purchase.
Yeah.
Yes, but we will own it at the end, which is more of a typical thing to do with the backhoe because
Yeah.
of the longer life,
So
as
otherwise
opposed
you
to
have
the
to do it all
vehicles.
over again.
Yeah.
We're gonna beat that mule
As
till
opposed to
we're
the
all done.
vehicles, where
Okay.
after 5 years, we generally want to enter into a new lease and get newer vehicles.
Okay, so I'm fine with that one. In terms of explanation, I can go forward. The forklift replacement, quick skinny.
Engine is on its way out. It's diesel. It's old school. It does not reach the uppermost shelves where the ESS crates are located. So
Okay, fine.
Is that, so that's propane?
that's a propane. Yeah.
So, nipping past some of these smaller things, to the parking plan signage, which I think we were keeping that as a place, and I don't propose to change it. Planning consultants, which I kind of see as whether it's planning consultants or other assistants to staff for Peter to decide how he wants to cut that pie.
Yeah, but we asked for this to be split up between one-time capex and ongoing operating, did we not? So that's planning consultant. Oh, that's a one-time consultant. That's not a staff position.
No.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
beg your pardon.
So
Okay.
fine. The emergency management coordinator, I think we, in my view, this is a yes. So then we're kind of nipping through the target solutions for fire department. I think
We're
that's,
still reviewing.
yeah, they're reviewing fire review, rebudget 5. So I'm figuring that from my perspective, if the emergency management coordinator, something was done there, I can hold my breath on the other one. Nipping through to the housing needs assessment, refresh my mind on that one.
So this is if we hope to do anything in terms of partnering with BC Housing or going after any housing type grants, doing any kind of a housing strategy, we need to have a housing needs assessment.
We need something in our corner.
It's a
Okay.
piece of the puzzle that you have to have if you're going to pursue
Good.
anything along those
Thank
lines.
you.
And that's what they cost.
That's a ballpark.
So, okay, you can come back on second kick at this one, Carl. Records management, always in favor. Land surveying, yes. Asset.
But what is that note there after 15,000 rebudget?
We had the 15,000 that was originally for a staff member, and then it morphed into records management. So we're rebudgeting the 15 plus requesting an additional 5.
So it's 20,000 for the thing
So
itself.
that's the
There,
unspent
yeah.
personnel
We'll have more
cost.
information on that on the February 21st.
Okay, so
Fine.
taxpayers are getting their money back from last year. And then the asset management plan, I think, although it's coming on the 21st, I think you made it pretty clear that this is a must-have going forward, period. Good more to
Yes.
say. And the by-elections there, so quite frankly, I'm fine.
By election misspelled.
Yes.
Fine. Okay, so nothing new there except forklift.
Forklift, yes.
I had no idea they were so cheap.
That's for a second-hand forklift. Brand new, they're about 45,000. So a second-hand with 5,000 hours on the meter is about 50.
And that'll do us?
Yeah.
Okay.
For 5 years, 10 years?
Oh, hopefully longer than that.
Okay, good.
Okay. Great. Now, where do we talk about the Lions Bay Beach Park? That's the second line
Yes.
and third line.
And that's what I was hoping in this meeting, just to go over some of the reports that Naya
Yeah,
has done.
so that, I do
and
want to spend some time on this
making sure
report.
there's an understanding around what we're asking for and if there's agreement from council, and also looking ahead into the 5-year plan,
Mhm.
things that we can put in the 2018, 2019 years of the 5-year plan.
Now, so just in terms of the number itself, we're talking about 4,800 plus 23,700 plus 7,500, right? All those numbers I see there on the second and third line.
So it's called 35 Gs all in for.
But is
Yeah.
that correct?
Sorry, I was on the wrong page when you said
So
that.
this number here, 48
Yes.
plus 75 plus 23.
Yes, so the
Okay.
hit this year to the budget would be 23, and we'd previously taxed
So,
for the
but in terms of
48.
cash
But in
spend
terms
available.
of cash, exactly.
Okay. Okay, so now you put this together. Why don't you tell us what we're looking at here?
So basically, the rebudget is for the components that were approved last time. The hand dryers During the inspection for the electrical, to do the hand dryers, to actually put them in, the contractor identified some code violations with the lighting. So,
The contractor did.
The contractor did. Staff proposed an amendment to that to transfer the baseboard heaters, I don't know if you recall we had put in, to replace and fix some of the panel and the two spotlights at the top of the building.
Just about baseboard heaters, why are we heating summer beach washroom?
The thought was that they would be useful during the winter and the fall,
Just
when
to
we
stop.
have some of those events like the New Year's Day beach or bear party. Polar bear swim. What we usually do is we get 5 or 6 oil heaters and get them in there, right? So
Do we need? Anyway, I'll leave the details to you. Fine. So that's in terms of the building itself. The thing that's more interesting to me is the stuff that we see here, which
Correct.
is somewhat overdue.
So the retaining structures that are containing the sand, which is the safety material for each of the playgrounds, are rotten and disintegrating. Twice this year we've had to go in and pull out a support timber and pound down the rebar which was sticking out of the ground. The stairs, you can see a little bit in the corner of the stairs coming down. It's starting to disintegrate as well, rot. So the idea is on page 64, the black areas would be replaced with an Allen block type retaining wall and tying the stairs into that.
And as important, paving stones where we see paving stones. What about at the landing of that staircase, the bottom half? You see what it looks like in the bottom picture of page 65.
Correct. Yeah.
So paving stones are not these hollowed out
No.
landscaping
No.
things. They're
Those are-
proper
yeah,
paving stones.
Correct.
Well bed and everything.
Yeah.
Now this stair, just to the left of the stair, out of picture, is an old swing set.
Correct.
What's the plan with that?
Nothing. Staff toyed with the idea of replacing that, doing some retaining wall work around that, because if you recall or know that is also an elevated platform with a retaining wall right next to the kayak rack. The decision that staff came up with was that we need to go out to the public with their feedback on what to do with the park. Same with the replacement of the playground structure. Is it a toddler structure? Is it a more for older kids? We need to gauge what the users of the park want. So the idea is this summer that we would do some sort of communication.
Well, I think a paper survey at the beach would probably be a very good start. But okay, so that's fine. So we're not talking about, and we're not talking about anything there. It's actually in the picture on page 64. You can see the kids don't use it because there's too many sticky out bolts.
Sorry, which one?
The swing set.
Yeah, correct.
I would
Yeah.
think probably wholesale removal and
Absolutely.
and landscaping down to grade would probably be more than sufficient. But
Yeah.
I think you're right in terms of the thing. What about renewal of the sand with something a little more play?
Friendly, such as,
Well, that I don't know.
yeah.
You're the public works guy.
So there's rubberized matting
Yeah.
that you can put in. It's very expensive and very intensive to maintain. You constantly have to keep on top of it. Other people are using bark mulch or a wood type mulch. You get splinters. Sand is probably the most universal, and there's a reason. It's probably the best.
What about then? I agree that sand's probably the best choice. What about some sort of machine that sifts it? I see them. I mean, I know in Miami, for example, they have a machine that does the whole beach nightly.
Correct.
So maybe not quite at that scale, but
I guess my question would be, what's the purpose behind sifting it?
rocks end up in there, and kids get hurt on them, especially small kids.
Yeah.
Sharps, and just dirt.
So essentially what's supposed to happen during the peak season is staff should be out there raking the entire sand surface and using
That only gets
steel
about
rake.
1 or 2 inches, though, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. But
I
that's
mean, are there
that's
such
the-
machines? It's some kind of cultivator that froths it up over a sieve, I imagine. I don't know.
Yeah, I would have to look into that.
Well, I mean, you know,
And it's not something that I've used in previous life at West Van when we look after the beach or Ambleside or any of the other playgrounds that we have.
Yeah, but just about all of those are going to rubberized underlayment now.
Yeah.
Hence.
Yeah.
Okay, so we get all of this.
All of this for 23 grand.
Yeah. What about the
The gazebo,
no, the
Sidewalks.
Entrance.
the entranceway?
the entranceway, right now staff will be taking it down at about 8 foot high. So taking the cross beam off and the two posts down at 8 foot.
Let me
until-
tell you something. If anything needs public input,
Correct.
that is.
Yeah, so right now the big concern is that that top timber is not being held on by anything. It's,
What could go wrong?
so the intent is to take that down, at the same time that we replace the two beams on the gazebo. And then, again, go out in the summertime for some feedback on what public would like to see.
Where's the gazebo work discussed here?
That's gonna
This
be
is staff
operational, thanks to finance,
Just
yeah.
in budget?
We can do it within operations.
So you're gonna host carving classes on these poles?
No. Bark stripping,
Bark strip, a chisel for everybody, okay?
That's going to be a big change. I'll just, Ron, you know as well as I do.
Well,
That's
I think, Carl,
Yeah.
this is the baby step to what I'm
Yeah.
ultimately gonna propose, that we put a very big number for 2018 for complete beach park renovation. I mean, assuming the wall hasn't caved down and
by then, yeah.
we haven't,
Yeah.
and we've got fisheries as green light, which would give you. another-
So will any of this work conflict with that future work in terms of
Um,
the big retaining wall?
it could, depending on the type of material.
Yeah.
If we go ahead with Allen block as what's suggested here, and ultimately the public come back and say they want a more natural look, or they want wood, or this has no public consultation or feedback whatsoever. This is a contractor coming out to give us an idea to replace the wall. So if you want to postpone and come back, we can carry on with the electrical work that's required. Do some sort of public outreach in the summer and come back in 2018.
The stairs are done. The stairs
Correct.
are a hazard.
Absolutely.
They have been a hazard for 2 years.
Yeah, the proposal for the stairs is concrete, and I wouldn't want to stray from that.
Yeah,
Just
we
from a
discussed this
maintenance-
last time. We don't need to reopen that discussion unless that's not to say we shouldn't. Now, the retaining wall above the septic field is sort of stacked natural rock.
Mhm.
That's not Allen block.
No,
Is it going to look like some kind of hodgepodge, like this thing was done in stages? Which it was.
point taken. Yeah.
In other words,
The
this, you
retaining-
can't buy. I mean, they built a retaining wall out of stacked natural stone.
Correct.
Why do
And-
we not do that on the play structure?
And we can do that on the play structure for the wall around the younger kids' play structure. But the wall around holding the material in, I think, needs to be,
More engineered.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You have more control over the shape.
Well, to the point about it, Allen blocks versus stack rock, the Allen block are gonna last a lot longer. We've got stack rock on our driveway, and with all the moisture and the freezing, it actually pushed the boulders out in a section.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't wanna see that happen there.
I'm more concerned about the work that we do next year in terms of the main retaining wall, which I would suggest, that needs to go down 6 feet below the beach level, below beach grade, and that would probably be the big ones, big block blocks, but
Could be, yeah.
with some sort of architectural treatment on the front. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Okay. What about this this table that's in the picture at the top, the south end of the beach? That's in the small kids' play structure.
That needs to go.
That needs to go. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's done, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. The shrub right next to it is actually poisonous or toxic. So that needs to go as well.
Is it oleander?
I don't know what it is. I just know from Garth that the berries are toxic.
Oh, the berry. Okay, well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, speaking individually, I think it's all fine. I think it's well conceived. My only request would be, speaking as a parent who's used this beach for the last 10 years, is the sand needs cleanup. If you could just investigate a little cultivator, tiller thing. Or potentially just get a cultivator to help the raking, just to churn up the thing to 6 inches rather than 1 inch. Maybe that's all that's required.
Peter, Naya's got a good raised a good issue about the public input. Is this IRR material in terms of how do we get the data? And when people are at the beach is probably the best time to do it. Young families, parents, it's obvious who's there. How do we get the data? Because I don't imagine the lads are going to walk around with notepads.
Clipboards.
No, I think it would be some form of signage and sheets
And a
or
survey monkey
direction
type
to
of thing.
a website.
Yeah. I think that's right. I think we have sort of strategically placed 2 signs somewhere. Lions Bay Beach Park is changing, have your say, by 31st of December 2017, whatever the number is.
Yeah.
And do some sort of web-based thing, Survey Monkey. Quite frankly, the best use of Survey Monkey is A, it's hosted, and B, the free-form input is what I've always found the most valuable.
So back to the IRR.
It's not, it's just a,
Well, it's a.
It needs to be done. Yeah, I think it is.
Well, I thought we were using that as the universal.
I think Councillor McLaughlin is moving an IRR, and I believe that I'll ask for a second, and all in favour.
Well, if you want to call it something else, I'll make a little note and ask you about it in 4 months.
sure, we
Yeah,
can,
put it on the list.
we can put it on the list, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that's good. Is that all you wanted to flag for
Sorry,
us?
sir.
Yeah.
Damn you and your good ideas.
I did just want to discuss the secondary stairs. If
That covers it up.
council
Yeah.
was, or the CSC was supportive of staff's recommendation that we actually take the stairs down.
Yeah,
Because
that
this is
is
remove the 15,000 from the budget.
yeah, that is a serious drop from the last step down to the beach. And based on what I've seen when I was out there, whatever we put in will be subject to some serious wave action and serious size logs, and I don't think it'll last.
So the stairs are done. That's problem A, and problem B is somewhat unrelated. Is this drop off?
The stairs are done. Related is the drop off, because if you do replace it with a concrete staircase, which is the
Okay, I'm with you now. The
you know,
current
the
budget
most-
item.
the most structurally sound, it will still be subject to erosion from underneath and significant wave action, including logs and boulders. So,
Unless we did it properly, which would mean DFO and subgrade excavation and all that stuff.
I would look to an alternative access, because the tide level comes right up to there. The alternative access from walking around, it's there.
Okay, I think what I will put a note to the village to say the proposition is to take those stairs down. What do we think?
Thank you,
Just
sir.
to see if there'll be any outcry. I don't go there.
Well, or fall on your head.
Correct. We've had one comment from a resident via Twitter about the staircase.
What was the nature of that comment?
Beach is closed, and I responded by saying no. Staircase is closed. Beach is open. You can access from the other side.
I think that's what you want to put in your note, and here's why.
Yeah, there's no access that's been cut off by removing these stairs. You just have to walk around
No,
the
I
beach.
was able to walk around.
Yeah.
Albeit low tide.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
But it'd be very interesting if you could walk on water.
Yeah.
But I think
I
you
don't
can.
protest. No, don't want to go there.
Okay, so in the mayor's desk, I will ask about removing stairs.
Is this a trailblazer thing? Is it a temporary thing?
I honestly think that if we have a hand in providing access at this point, we're taking on a liability that we don't want to.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry, I missed that. The trailblazers for the stairs? you
Well, I
mean?
was thinking it was nice that he, rather than going down, he found an alternate route, which I presume.
Well, just along the beach.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, I'm sure we can make it
Yeah.
a little nicer than that. And these guys are like rock woodchucks.
Yeah, it's just very steep, and the water comes right up to
Yeah.
the base
No,
of
no,
it, as
I-
you can see. So.
Okay.
Okay, fine. So, so the budget to remove those stairs is not 15.2.
No.
So we can take 15,
It's
20.
already taken out.
It is taken out.
Yeah, that's what I
You
was drawing your
presupposed the
attention
answer.
to.
Correct.
I put staff's recommendation, but I did make a flag. I didn't try to hide it. I said we removed it, and that's why I wanted to discuss it, was that staff's recommendation was that we don't go ahead.
Is this in any way related to the outfall from? No.
No.
Scratch that. No, it's not. That's a pipe.
Correct.
I was thinking septic field.
Yeah. No.
Okay, good. Well, yeah, okay. But if we did go with it, it would be 15,020 to replace the stairs to some sort of
Concrete.
Yes.
slightly band-aided, or would that be fully foundationed, DFO approved, dug into the sand?
It would have to be DFO approved and yes, dug into a sand, but again, the wave action there, you can see it just by
Short
standing on
lifespan.
the beach. Those stairs won't last long.
No.
Yeah, that was the main criteria. It wasn't so much the cost, was we'd invest the money and then we'd be back here a few years later,
Yeah.
looking to replace them again.
Yeah, concrete stairs into the sea don't work very well anywhere in the world.
No.
Okay, folks, what do we say? Ready to move on? You good, Fred? Why does this seem so easy? Something's wrong.
Well, we haven't cut yet.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't
was just-
smell the tea leaves.
Yeah, I think you. The implication was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll look at, so the next step to me is February 21st. We bring back additional information. We solidify some of the numbers. We do have a conversation about potential cuts versus putting money in reserves. We'll have a fourth quarter review, so we can look, have a more accurate number of what our reserves are. And then, to me, the first meeting in March, we'll start talking about the 5-year plan as well, which we haven't done in the past, which I'd like to start doing so we can get council's ideas for the future as well. You've already mentioned Lions Bay Beach Park for 2018.
Relative to me, I think you know where I stand on that, relative to one or two spots. So I think hearing what to the public, details unknown, other than a big number, that's fine. Thank you, Pam.
Can I just ask for a motion to recess so I can confer with the CAO quickly and 5 minutes? So thanks, and a second. All in favour? Opposed? Carried. Can we just going to have a chat quickly, Peter? I just want to ask about something that may be suitable for this meeting. If we could
a photo?
do a close. Yeah. So let's just take a 5. Okay, resuming the meeting at 4:28. Let's say. Okay, Ron, go ahead. Sorry.
So then, thank you very much, Pam. So the 15 grand was out of the budget. Works managers identified the issue. Stairs will be taken away. Nothing will be done. And the question is, does council want to do something or allocate something?
Correct.
And your recommendation is?
To close that access off permanently,
And?
subject to feedback from,
And if it was replaced, 15 would be the right number or too light, or?
15 is the right number, but I don't believe those stairs will last very long if we do replace them.
Because we're
15
talking
will
about
get-
poured concrete.
15
And-
will get us a poured concrete stairway.
That'll erode from the bottom up and,
Correct, and you'll be faced with a liability of another drop or broken steps or a broken handrail.
so going down farther, so for those zillions of people that go there every summer, they're just gonna
They walk down the normal path.
hang on to a rope and go down?
No, they go down the normal walkway. They go down here.
Down
Yeah.
to the end. The same route that I took to
Okay.
take the picture from the bottom up.
Yeah, it's not going to cut off beach access.
No.
There's a different route.
Okay, so, and it, thank
That's a
you.
real side thing.
Yeah.
Do you know the history of why we have those stairs?
No, they disappeared. I have no idea.
Oh, they just appeared.
My understanding was that there was a severe windstorm at one point that generated a lot of lumber, and Chuck and Public Works purchased an Alaskan mill, and they were able to mill up all of this timber to do the railings at the park and other wooden features like the Wade Park sign. So
Okay, I'm good.
Chuck, okay, yeah.
Okay, fine. So let's. We've received that report. So now we'll move on to section 7 of the agenda. Staff reports. There's one. The SCADA communications report on page 71. No.
So essentially what we're talking about is we're talking about commissioning a study, a report, to identify the best solution for communicating data from our treatment plants, from future PRV stations and future tanks. And that will look at cellular, it'll look at the ability and the cost to transfer cellular data. It will look at radio technology, mesh, umbrella. It will look at building or identifying a communications backbone for the SCADA system of the future for Lions Bay.
Okay, that's pretty much how I read this report. How does it differ from the what sounds to me like a very similar project that we approved last year for $18,000? Is this just a more realistic cost for that study?
This is a more realistic cost and a further breakdown of exactly what we're looking for.
Okay, and it's just a study. There's no hardware involved.
Correct. No hardware involved, and I have talked to two vendors who seem to believe that this, two engineering firms who seem to think that this should do it for us.
23
including-
grand
Just getting.
to tell us what technology to use.
No, 15 grand, or sorry, 18.5. The additional 5 was a figure that was thrown in there to look at the potential for siting and looking at cellular. That was without any feedback yet from Darren.
Almost a separate project.
Agreed, almost a separate project, yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, so 18 just for a plan?
Yeah. Communication
You're
study.
recommending 25.
That's including the cellular communication piece.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
still waiting for that gentleman who contacted us earlier to provide info on that.
Yeah, I mean, if the study turns out to recommend cellular as the backbone technology, I mean, in the whole OSI service model, you know, you've got hardware at the top and it goes all the way down to protocol. You know, the difference between TCP, IP, and Ethernet, and
Yeah.
these things are all in a layered model.
Yeah.
But let's say that particular layer, the carrier layer, is cellular, then the tower project plays into that very well, because then, you know, that would facilitate the cellular communications not only between our SCADA nodes, but for the village as a whole. So, you know, certainly I hope that cellular comes out as a potential opportunity.
Actually, it will be both. It could be both.
On the tower.
Having the cellular tower provide cellular service is exclusive to the SCADA communications study.
Yeah.
Whether SCADA goes cellular or radio or some other technology, we will need a tower. And it's best to have a private vendor build a tower for free, give us revenue,
Yeah.
and us put an antenna on that tower.
Okay, so if you tell me a study, and as you know, I hate studies, I like plans, is $18,000 something that I would have thought a vendor will do for free only too happily?
35,000 is the communications study, the SCADA communications study for West Vancouver. I'm happy to share that document with you so you can get an understanding of what we're looking for. But it's fade margins, it's technology, it's the data transfer package, the sizing.
So they will go as far as doing some site-specific signal strength type things.
Absolutely.
I mean, ultimately, you're hoping to get SCADA up at the intakes too, presumably.
Absolutely.
Although one would not want to invest too much in those intakes, pending other things, like, for example, the success of our request to build a pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
So, but these things are somewhat leapfrog, chicken and egg. I don't know.
Yeah, the plants are priority, the intakes are going to be looked at, but less of a priority as opposed to the PRVs and the tanks.
So, I mean, for 18,000, we can replace the current wired infrastructure, which is just telephone wires strung over trees. For 18,000, we could put poles up along the access roads to both plants and put in Ethernet.
So, begging your pardon, but putting up poles with wires stringed up sort of is pretty much what we have, except the poles are trees.
Yeah, just making it more robust.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, all you want to do is get the plants onto our Ethernet network, a SCADA network, really.
No, we want to get the plants on, but we also want to look at the future of the PRVs on SCADA.
Yeah.
Right? Because right now, accessing a PRV is a 3-man operation. if we had pressure readings and control over those PRVs to adjust pressure settings, that negates having to go into the confined space.
So what, if we were to SCADA up a PRV, what would that, because then you're talking about actuated valves, you're talking about power to the valve compartment, you're talking
Correct.
about instrumentation. What sort
And-
of cost are you looking at there?
That's all within our grant funding application for replacement of the 13 PRVs.
So just give us a number, absolutely.
Built in, 125 per station.
Yeah. So that would be nice for Little Lions Bay, but
Mhm.
each PRV, of which we have 9,
13,
13,
yeah,
is 125 grand.
correct.
That's not going to happen in any kind of hurry. So I wouldn't be holding your breath on SCADA to the PRVs. There's instrumentation, yes, in terms of analysis, in pipelines. But frankly, for the conceivable, the SCADA requirement is to the plant, which is what we have today.
If the Clean Water Wastewater Fund gets approved, the grant application, each of those stations, our grant ask includes SCADA at each of those PRVs. Same with the water tanks. Each of those tanks has an ask in for SCADA.
So well over $1 million is for SCADA-ing up the PRVs.
No, 125,000 is for the replacement of the complete station. So a chamber, all the valving, all the pipe work,
Okay.
plus SCADA. SCADA, for each of the PRVs, SCADA is about 18,000.
Okay, that's more like it.
Yeah.
Okay. Actuated valves, power to the chamber, because there's not power there now, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
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 So I'll ask again, in terms of the initial, would it be fair to say that just deciding Ethernet to the plants, you could do that for well under 18? This is a
Yeah.
future-proofing
This
study.
is to look at the entire system. This is to look at SCADAing all the PRVs, all the way out to Brunswick. So in the future, as we improve our system, we would be able to provide communication to all of that.
And what's
the-
your professional sense? That would be a wireless solution.
It would be a wireless solution, I'm thinking, yeah.
And you've provided in your report that there's really only 2 options, because UHF doesn't, that's...
Yeah, no, West Van's system is UHF and VHF. And Motorola makes some very good, robust 7-layer security radios that communicate large volumes of data.
Well, yeah, I mean, cellular is a radio, make no mistake. It's just a very sort of consumer-oriented, low power. But so essentially, you're saying you want to now do the $18,000 study we approved a year ago, and do a $5,000 add-on to handle the potential for what could be a secondary project, but might be an allied project, depending on what the answer comes.
And depending on what I get back from that gentleman, it could be that we don't need the 5,000. It could be that they do everything.
They do it all.
Correct.
Okay. I've been dominating the conversation a little bit, sorry. Do we get what we're talking about here?
Mhm.
It's a pretty hefty price tag for a study, but it sets us up for the grant, because it doesn't do any good to have PRV capable, SCADA capable PRVs and no means to actually
Or tanks.
pull the data,
Correct.
or tanks,
Yeah.
or anything future. Filter screens, you name it,
Everything.
yeah, gates.
Yeah. Fill stations, everything.
I sympathize with your point, because it just seems like we're endlessly preparing to go hunting and never pulling the trigger. That's just, sooner or later, we gotta get in the woods.
I'm thinking about what we will write in our, this was a great council and here's what we accomplished. And we did a SCADA plan? SCADA study. Didn't even do a plan.
Communication study.
Yeah, sorry, communication.
Yeah.
That's not sexy, unless you find that kind of thing exciting,
Yeah.
which I do.
I think to take the counterpoint, this council is quite a technical council, Carl. I mean, this is...
Is that a criticism?
Well, no, it's not just kind of it's not the sexy stuff. It's pretty gritty stuff here, and I mean,
Yeah.
to me, I share your and Fred's too. I mean, to use Fred's example, I mean, we're loading the gun, we're sighting. Unfortunately, I'm never sure what the target is. Because if we get the
Well, it's
pipe
been a
and push
moving target
Metro-
up to now, but I'm finally
I mean-
convinced that we at least know what we're hunting.
As do I.
We're loading for bear.
Yeah, so the option is, we can take that 18.5, rather than putting up poles, I would probably look to putting in a conduit so that it's underground, so that it's not susceptible to branches or wind
Well,
or
you're presupposing a hardware, a hardwire solution.
to both the treatment plants. However, that doesn't provide any communication backbone to each of the PRVs or the tanks. So moving forward, future-wise, we're still going to have to visit each of those PRVs to check pressures, to adjust. We're going to have to check and constantly visit the tanks.
I'm all for it, but I don't want to get so bedazzled by the potential technology that I lose sight of the fact that we're talking about spending 23,000.
To determine the best solution for our communications in the future.
That is in here, right, Pam? In terms of the,
It's in the water budget.
it is in the
actually.
schedule.
Yeah, it's there.
It's actually in the water budget,
Yeah.
and
I think you made the point, Carl, that, if we get what we're asking for with the grants, we have SCADA capable infrastructure that
yeah.
we're putting in, and we have no
We need to be able to
no
talk to
idea
them.
as to what we're doing with it, then we you don't want to look like the council that was foolish enough not to be ready for the stuff that we got.
Okay, done.
It's
Thank
just
you.
a
You made
different
the
way
most
of,
cogent
different way of
argument.
looking at it.
Few words and right to the point, thank you.
Yeah, so I'm going to do this. Nods? Nods or shakes?
Mayor, information report.
Sorry, just before you move on, I don't think we actually had a motion with respect to the 6B supplemental budget requests receiving
think we
the
did.
report. No, Shauna didn't have it, I didn't have it.
Oh, sorry. I asked for the recess or one too early. So just do we need a motion to return to that budget agenda item?
Just with respect to 6B.
So retroactively, can I have a motion to receive the supplemental budget request report? Thanks. And a second. All in favour? Opposed? That carries.
Please itemize no changes.
And then 7A1 that you just had.
7A1. So that was I need a motion to receive that report. And a second. Any further discussion? So what's going to come out of this? That means you're going to add that number to the budget.
yes, it's currently in the budget, so we'll
Yeah.
keep it in the budget.
Fine. Okay, good. So all in favour? Opposed? That carries. This is a mayor's report. Okay, well, I guess I'll give it on page 75. So this was at council's request. I reviewed the Metro Electoral Area A OCP and extracted from it, to the extent I know anything about OCP review, things that I thought might be applicable to Lions Bay, and this is the report. Mostly it's fine. I did subsequently have a discussion with the electoral area director and the administrator at the committee meeting on Friday. Essentially, they seek to discourage subdivision and development in the parcels that are not on the map, but they're here. They're more or less touching us here. There's a big parcel here, sort of.
Right
you know,
below you there.
Oh, thank you. These parcels here, all of these guys. So that's electoral area, and the OCP speaks to not encouraging subdivision or rezoning or development permits or building permits because they don't want to add services. So they say, absent any deal with adjacent municipalities, guess who they're talking about, the OCP discourages development in those parcels. Essentially, they're saying, unless you choose to amalgamate with Lions Bay, it ain't going to happen.
But there's a secondary aspect to that, is even if they did amalgamate with Lions Bay, then we're inheriting an OCP designation, which is thereby in the regional growth strategy.
So we would have
which
to do an
we would have
OCP
to-
amendment and change the regional growth strategy.
Right. So that means going to Metro to change the regional growth strategy, which is not a simple ask. It can be a very complicated and difficult thing to do from my own experience at the
Yeah.
SLRD.
So I suppose what we would want to say is, as part of this, where we don't have any say-so on this OCP, all we get is an opportunity to comment. the target for comments is a very soft deadline. I re-established that this will only go for readings at Metro in the early summer. So we've got lots of time, but I think, Peter, we would probably want to say that we would need some sort of comfort that Metro would be amenable to changing the regional growth strategy should there be any future amalgamation.
I don't know that they would be in a position to provide that kind of comfort.
Yeah.
You know, I don't
Depends on
think
the
they
board.
can actually do that.
Yeah. But does not the regional growth strategy then fall away if we expand our boundaries into those areas?
No, because we're part of Metro and we're signatories to that regional growth strategy. So it's an amendment to the regional growth strategy. So
How
it
so?
would
Though?
be
Doesn't that just fall into Lions Bay's part of the regional
No.
growth strategy?
no, it's our OCP has a context statement that
Mhm.
has to be consistent with Metro's regional growth strategy.
I know,
And-
we read
and
it.
so if we amend our OCP to change the designations of those lands, if they were ours,
The zoning, you mean?
then the context statement would go to Metro, and they might say, no, we don't agree with this. This isn't
And we say
consistent
it's
with
too
our
bad
regional growth
and
strategy.
we're going ahead?
Well, it's not that simple.
Yeah.
It's,
Okay, well, let's cross that bridge when we get to it. Those big lots there are currently in the OCP are designated large lot rural. The purple ones to the north, that's these guys between our boundary and the regional district boundary, which is purple, you can't see it, these guys here, are small lot rural, whatever that means. Which sort of raised the question, this kind of activity here, outside our boundary, but within Metro, which is, that's not small lot rural, that's general urban. But okay, that's their problem, not ours. I did point it out to them that they better just check their small lot rural designation, because that doesn't seem to be what's happening here anyway. They've had this challenge, the OCP for electoral area A, it's a very strange electoral area in that 98% of the population live in the UEL and University Neighborhood Association lands. So it's not actually rural like most electoral area A, most electoral areas are. But, so they've broken it, so the OCP doesn't cover that, because that's covered by different growth strategies. So the OCP does the Howe Sound communities, Bonston Island, which is in the Fraser River, if you didn't know, and Pitt Lake and Indian Arm. So that, and they all have, they're sort of treated as three separate areas. So we're only really concerned about the Howe Sound portion. So here are my comments. I don't really know, if they're worth the paper they're written on. I think probably what happens from this now, Peter, is that you typed this up into an official looking letter to provide our formal comments. Is that?
yeah, that was my thinking going forward. But I think that it would probably, it deserves a discussion at a strategic planning review that I think management and council should have, just touching base on the strategic plan and making sure that everything on there is still your priorities going forward. Or if there's any change in the order of those priorities, do we have time and resources to devote towards considering boundary expansion? It's lower down the list right now. Does council want to move it up? Those are things that we should consider, or the council should consider before we write back with our comments on this, because that may inform the discussion.
Yeah, maybe we don't care what they do with it because we have no plans whatsoever to expand in that direction. Or we don't, but we have to, planning is protecting for the future. So, we can't predict what's going to be needed in 20 years' time. I would hate to be prescribed by the electoral areas OCP from doing anything with those lands 20 years from now.
It's kind of humorous that, assuming that we would be the predator, that the predator doesn't dictate the terms of future growth here, and the prey is double protected by Metro. That's,
to my mind, it's an extra layer of government that's not needed. But anyway, that's how it's all evolved. So is this a chicken and egg situation? I'm still struggling to get my head around the regional context statement and the regional growth strategy and our growth strategy, such as it is. I can't even remember what our growth strategy is.
We don't have a growth strategy.
We don't have
just
one.
have an OCP.
Yeah.
Regional districts have growth strategies.
Oh, is that what they're? Okay, you see.
But
It's all pretty arcane.
In any event, what I would suggest is that you receive the report from the mayor and perhaps refer it to council for direction to staff as to how to proceed with it. My suggestion would be that we refer it to a future, as of yet undesignated meeting to review the strategic plan, followed by a formal letter to Metro with respect to our comments. or your
All within
comments.
the nominal deadline.
Mhm. Yes.
Okay, so let's take that as a motion. Is everybody good with that as a motion? Thanks. A second? Thanks, Ron. All in favour? Opposed? That carries. Okay. That was that. No council, no committee, anything?
Munson?
Yep.
On the community grant stuff, I will be electronically advising, I'll copy council and staff with the Trailblazers much expanded request for community grant, which has got some problems due to trail signage. So I'll just put that on the future agenda. And this is for the mayor to opine. I did attend the Historical Society's AGM today, and subject to your concurrence, I offered to be their council liaison because I believe this is one of the nominal and few duties that you can actually decide on.
I don't think I can even do that.
Sorry, I missed it.
I can.
To
Yeah, I was
appoint me
too busy
to
making notes.
No, that's a council decision.
council?
Sorry, what's the
Oh,
answer?
portfolio.
But it's just a portfolio. No, portfolios. Yeah, but and well, normally they fall under the community portfolio. We don't have a councillor holding the community portfolio today. If you're willing to take it on, I don't.
I will take the liaison for the balance of term.
That'd be great. Thanks. And I don't think we can do a resolution on that if we want. But
I'll go rogue.
just add it to your portfolio consideration. Okay. Cheers. That's great. Thanks. Glad to have you doing that. Okay, so we'll move on to new business. TransLink funded projects. This will be an on-table report, my favourite, but it's coming to this meeting, so no decision can be made on it. Did council get this?
Thank you.
No, they didn't.
No, not yet.
That was the press.
Do you have a thing for the gallery?
I do. That's good. I've seen it.
Okay, so Peter, walk us through.
So, what we have is Mayor Burr has been lobbying hard at mayor's council meetings and making inroads with respect to speaking to people at TransLink and fighting for transit for Lions Bay. And to that end, we have followed up and spoken with TransLink staff on funding opportunities under some of their programs. And in terms of that, we had two particular projects in mind. One was a bus shelter, which notionally would go where the current bus stop is at intersection of Cross Creek and Center Road.
It's here, just to give it
This
context.
by the municipal hall. And the other project is replacement of the crumbling stairs going down underneath the central Lions Bay underpass. Those stairs, staff feels, should take precedence. They are really falling apart. Public Works Manager can speak to what the issues are with them, but they're pretty much outlined in that handout that you've got. And the rough estimate on that is $25,000 to replace the existing set of stairs. They are a trip hazard, and from a risk management standpoint, staff would assign a higher priority for that reason, and they're well used by the community. With respect to the bus shelter, estimated rough cost about $15,000 plus or minus about 2 or 3, depending on what we go for. And from our conversations with TransLink, we're not going to get both. Probably going to get a maximum, if for consideration. It still would have to be sent up the food chain for decision, but they said about 25,000 would be what they're comfortable putting in. So
And this is 100% grant. This is no matching.
yeah, so yeah, there'd be no additional local input other than, you know, the other consideration to doing a one or the other kind of proposition is that you go with the higher priority item of the stairs and fund them 100% basically with the grant, and then look at doing a bus shelter, which perhaps we could do for a bit less if we utilize potentially utilize the design that was done for the Kelvin Grove bus shelter, you know, there's other considerations that could work in with that in terms of combining our existing bulletin board across the street there with the bus shelter. But that would be an additional fund cap request that council would have to consider. That's one way to approach it. The other would be choose between the projects.
Yeah, that's a difficult one. You know, leading on from discussion we just had about, you know, what has this council actually done that's visible, pulled the trigger on. My thinking was a bus shelter. We had a deputation here asking for a bus shelter to put a shelter, as in a stop the rain falling on your head, for the bus stop here. We've discussed, Peter and I, moving that bus shelter a little bit down here to flatter land, whether that would fit without moving paint lines and fog lines and walls and stuff. I also point out, you know, absent a landscaping plan, we don't really know what we want to do from the fire hall down to the underpass. Although, as I say here, it's looking pretty shaggy and unkempt, that much I do know. But whether this wall out here needs replacement at some point soon is a consideration. You know, the bus shelter is not just to keep the rain off your head. It's sort of, I'd want to move the notice board to wherever the bus shelter ended up so you have something to read while you're there. Also to have an annunciator when the next bus is coming, in light of service model delivery changes that I'm looking at with TransLink, which is to do with what they call the vertical fixed route, which means that it's something a cross between a shuttle and a scheduled bus, so that essentially it will drop you off where you need to be and pick you up where you call from. So, you know, I'm looking for in this this $3.5 billion fund that we're just looking to spend in phase one. I specifically had them put in funding for innovative model delivery, and guess who would be the guinea pig? Us. So, you know, I'd want, for example, an annunciator the next bus in 8 minutes, and you know, possible delay of 7 because they've got to drop somebody off in Kelvin Grove or wherever. So there's more to it than just a bus shelter. It's no, we could certainly build a bus shelter, and we could build it for less than 15, right? Not a glass and steel number, a Lions Bay number.
The existing shelter at Kelvin Grove cost.
I think it was $13,500, $14,000 without design. The design was done for free.
Yeah, that was Peter Regglesworth did the design,
I
right?
thought it was Rob Simon back at the line.
It could be that, yeah. One of the architects.
So 13 grand to build that.
What's it made out of? Camphor wood?
Wood.
Some kind of wood.
Some very expensive. Imboya, mahogany? I don't know. Okay, that's what it costs.
Perhaps, you know, what's occurring to me as you're expanding upon what the bus shelter is and what else it ties into, and potential other locations depending on other work and so forth, is maybe we push the bus shelter to 2018 so that we can see how those other things tie in. We get the landscaping done. We see about doing the replacement of the wall, the retaining wall there that's going to need some attention. We figure out if there's a better place for it, and then by then hopefully we've got some sort of a proposal from TransLink to trial a new service. And so it could be better timing-wise to push it to 2018.
Going back to the general government budget, I think this is all part of the beautification of let's call it the government campus, for lack of a better word. To play with numbers here, if we were to get 25,000 from TransLink and we were to throw in 12 for the bus stop, it's not much different than a third partnership with the former levels of government getting grants and stuff like that.
We are
So-
also getting 20 grand from Modi.
And so the reality here is that when I look at this and they're, it's an opportunity to do something functional. I mean, this morning at the historical society, people complain, where did the picnic chairs go? Because people want this kind of thing. So, long story short, I would actually be in favor of the 15 Gs for the bus going on to the general government supplemental request list. And we can duke it out when we look at some of the other asks.
Well,
I
yeah,
do
I
it all in
prefer
one
that, to be
shot.
honest. I take your point, Peter, that 2018 might be a better year to do it. I want something visible. This is political.
Put it
Well,
in,
you're
my
still in office in 2018.
my recommendation.
I've got other plans for 2018.
My recommendations, we duke it out the next time around. Because less one emergency generator that we've been without for many, many years, and we'd have not one but 2 bus stations.
The funding mechanism is an annual mechanism, so we can ask again next year, though I doubt that we'll get the full ask. Currently, it's a 50-50 program. They're going above that 50%. They're willing to donate 100 because of the pressure that the mayor has put on. I
Not
don't
pressure. It's collegiate discussion
Okay.
with the CEO. of
Beg your
Transnet.
pardon, the mayor has corrected me. I don't know that will be available next year.
It will not, guaranteed. This is
So-
the 100% funding at any level is a one-time favor.
Take it and run.
Yeah, I mean, I take the point that those stairs have needed work for a very long time. Unfortunately, I don't believe that we're in a position yet to decide. If you look at the pictures, these aerials are fantastic. It's not just the stairs; it's also the walkway down from the crosswalk. Just here. And I've always long thought that that walkway should go down in some sort of landscape path through, for lack of a better term, let's call it the highway tank park. Whether we actually need a highway tank is as a result of a discussion that I think we're budgeting. So there's so many wheels within wheels here.
But if people just want to get to the bus stop that's on the other side of this underpass, they're not going to want to go through the bush, and especially if they got a stroller. They're going to want to go down this
Well, it
this
won't be
path.
it won't be bush. It'll be a sidewalk, but it will go through to keep people away from the
They're protected
highway.
by a barrier right now.
It's a
It's
beautification
beautiful.
project.
Yeah, it's a lovely looking.
I'm not
barrier.
saying don't do a trail through the highway park or the highway tank
highway
park,
park. I like it.
whatever you want to call it.
Anyway, the point is,
in any event.
going off half cocked here, to spend $25,000 of free money on some stairs that we don't even know if they'll be there as a result of the road recambering, which is also needed. So I don't need to tell you that this is probably the most dangerous
Sorry.
road area in Lions Bay.
A road recambering. Sorry.
I was just going to ask about the road recambering. I don't know about the road recambering.
Well, this has not been discussed yet, but it's in the IMP.
A road recambering is going to be a significant capital project.
Of course it is. It's going to be a massive project.
Right.
But you only have to look at the number of cars that end up sideways on snow days, even on rain days. This is this is the most used intersection in Lions Bay, but the road is pointing in the wrong direction for the bend. So ultimately it needs to be fixed. These stairs would certainly have to be changed because there'd be some major excavation taking place. It would have to be done in concert with Modi. You see my arguments here. The additional one was that I think Nye didn't understand, Peter, so I'll just mention it to you. People do use this bus stop all the time. Kids getting off the school bus, the yellow bus, walk up here to wait for the Brunswick bus every day in the rain, if it's raining. So it's used. And we've had a community request from the Historical Society, right? It was the Historical Society, asked for a shelter. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that we need to get a full-on glass and steel $15,000 thing, but that would be nice. Why? Because I want Lions Bay to become at least seen to be participating in the TransLink effort in order to gain more TransLink funding when the time comes. Because our bus is, let's just say, underutilized. Average ridership 2.4 per bus, except in the mornings and evenings. I mean, the average is 2.4. So, and I do know that the people who need the bus really need the bus. So we can't see any reduction in service there until we start talking about service delivery model. So I hear your point about the stairs, but
The maintenance and inspection are gonna be going up. Those stairs are require constant attention. Concrete is crumbling. You know, you can imagine somebody putting their heel on the edge of a step and the step
Breaking
giving
away.
away.
well,
So-
until about this time last year, the forming timbers that were there when they were poured were still there, and they were sometimes 2 inches away from the concrete. Talking about trip hazard. So
Correct.
at least those have come off.
And yeah, they've come off. The nails have been ground off so that they're no longer sticking out. But the concrete is deteriorating.
Is there anything that can be done to do a slip coat over the top, epoxy or otherwise?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that.
Because the 25 would be full demolition and redo, right?
Correct.
Seems cheap. Would that include any steps where it's currently just a walkway?
Not just a replacement of the existing steps, the installation of steps where there currently is a walkway would be an additional 25K based on the estimate that we've received.
Yeah, I know you say strollers. I don't know if you've ever tried to go uphill with a stroller. You only do that once. So there's not a lot of strollers. It's mostly walkers, so steps would be fine. Every now and again. I mean, ultimately, I would like to see Lions Bay cyclable, but the hills are too steep. It's just,
From my window, I see people walking past all the time, and I'd say almost half of them are strollers, mums with little babes.
yeah,
And if they're going down, I imagine they're coming back up.
but they're not going down. They're going up here. I know every one of them.
Okay.
They're going home.
All right.
I've
You know-
walked up
you know
there without a
stuff I don't-
stroller.
You know stuff I don't know.
I take your point. At some point in the future, people want to go strollers there, and it's part of a larger project, which is a sidewalk down the hill from the interchange down to the beach.
And I take all of that into consideration.
Yeah, I know.
The stairs are, the material from underneath the stairs is vacating. It's
Yeah, I know. I just don't want
The
to
stairs are
misuse our
cracking.
one-time grant.
yeah, the stairs are cracking and breaking apart.
I hear you.
So
I take it that TransLink is fine with us using their precious money to rebuild our concrete stairs,
correct. I've talked to them about both projects.
because you said it's to go to the bus stop.
It is to provide access to the bus stop. I provided the keeper of the $1 million grant funding, the same document that you have here.
Well, I hope that wasn't premature, because I'm going to ask for full council review on this one, because there's wheels within wheels. The other thing I'll just point out is that, contrary to popular opinion, the bus stop is not under the underpass. The bus stop is on the bridge deck.
Yeah, we do.
And you can't even wait for the bus there, because he'll go past. You may not, so you have to keep jumping up to go and look if it's coming, to know to go and stand on the other side of the road in the rain. So that is a potential bus shelter location as well.
So just to clarify, the discussion with TransLink was to reserve 25K, but it could be for a bus shelter or stairs. The decision is up to council, and that was conveyed to TransLink as well.
Oh no, yeah, I'm sure you didn't sort of pre-commit us, but okay, so
I think we could afford a bus shelter on our own funds.
That's where I'm at with this, I think. Sorry, Fred.
Oh, more easily than we could afford to fix
Yeah.
the stairs.
I mean, it's all a number here anyhow.
it is just money. It's just a
And
number.
so, you know, my recommendation would be we just tack the 15 grand onto the supplemental requests under general government. We can duke it out later.
Fine, I'm okay with that, as long as it becomes a TransLink official bus shelter to do with things like enunciators, power, lighting, schedules, all that stuff. You know, it's so. For example, the West Van bus shelter outside Rockridge School, which used to be glass and steel, got vandalized. They've now turned that into it looks like it was built out of Home Depot. Sort of, it looks like lattice work. You know what I'm talking about?
Is that the one at the turn?
At the turn, yeah.
So that is an additional consideration with bus shelters, you gotta go in with your eyes wide open, is that there's an ongoing operational cost. of
The glass gets
shelter.
broken once a year by some.
Yeah, if it's
nutcase.
glass, yeah, you gotta deal with breakage, you gotta deal with vandalism, spray painting, all the rest of it, happens all the time.
Right.
And you gotta have a bear-proof bin there for garbage, and so
That's
that's
$2,000.
But we don't have that today.
Pardon me?
We don't have that today.
In stock.
We have bus stops everywhere. They're just not sheltered.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're a bear smart community. I would hope that if we're gonna put in a bus shelter, we would also put in a bear smart garbage bin.
I would hope that we'd have bear smart garbage bins at our bus stops today. We don't.
We
Not
do.
all.
Okay, so I think you've summarised
Yeah.
probably the best approach. I like the idea that it's sort of 1/3 funding anyway, based on current spending, landscaping funds coming, etc., etc. So let's just take that as the motion to recommend to council. I just hate to misuse.
No, you're not misusing it.
It's
Nice
just not
offer.
exciting to
Nice
rebuild
offer.
concrete stairs.
Nice offer that we're
Consider
just
it-
reserving the thing, we'll finalize it.
Consider it, as Councillor McLaughlin said, it's a $40,000 ask. 25 is going to be provided by TransLink, 15 by council.
Fine. You are convinced that the only way to do this is a full demolition and recasting, as opposed to some sort of. Yeah, that's all there is.
Yeah, epoxy coating over top of an existing suspect surface.
No, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Forget it. And would this be the same project as the beach stairs and all the other cast concretes, or would you separate them?
We would go out to tender, and
But would they be one project?
if all of the projects get approved, yes.
So there'd be some economies of scale to do all at
That
the
would be
same
a
time.
strong yes at one time.
Big economy of scale or
No,
marginal?
concrete's concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the truck comes once instead of twice, and the forms. No, well, yeah.
The difference in separating the projects out is probably $150 travel fee for the truck. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, fine. So let's leave it at that basis. So receive the report, and this will come to council. Or do you want to? No, we can't make a decision here. So we'll bring this to council tonight to make the budget add. Right?
No,
Well, we're not making a decision, I can just add it to the
We just-
budget.
well,
and
Pam's
then
just
we
gonna
can-
add it,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, it'll come
Pam's
back
gonna
on the
add it.
21st.
As a
We'll
result
go back
of this
on the
discussion.
21st,
You're
exactly.
gonna ask the
No,
staff to
we
get
still
the
have
25 grand.
flexibility.
So a motion to receive the report. I'm waving in my hand. And second, all in favour, opposed, carried. New business. That was the only new business. Public questions and comments. Sorry, we don't know who you are. I don't know who you are. You've been very patient. It can't be that exciting.
Resident from Kelvin Grove.
Yes, I've been a resident for the Killing Grove Way for the last 10 years, and I'm just wanting to get to know Lions Bay better inside out, pretty much. So that's my reason why I'm attending.
Fantastic. Glad to have you. It gets even more exciting at tonight's council meeting where we actually make some decisions.
Okay.
That starts at 7, so be sure to come back in.
Yeah, I will.
But I'm reserving that seat for you.
Perfect.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to adjournment. Can I have a motion and a second? All in
Thank you.
favour? Opposed? That carries. Meeting adjourned until the next meeting.
Okay.